This is the Sluggo, slant and go.
Live from Las Vegas, Nevada, and Defusky Island, South Carolina, it's Sluggo, your favorite podcast. Or at least it's Casey and I's favorite podcast, or it better be Casey. I really I hadn't asked you, but
I don't know.
I'm hoping it's your favorite. Hey, been here for 6 days and I'm still alive.
Yeah, the return of chop and beef may, tilt the scales a little bit back, but we'll talk about that later on.
I love the return of the chop and beef, and I told you and Zach, as a matter of fact, that JJ was dead on about the stench after you have COVID. I know from personal observations earlier this week in Vegas. Right? It's by the way, it's hot in Vegas. It's a good 110 yesterday, I believe. It's very hot. Hopefully Marty is winning big out there. We'll get to that in just a second, JP. Glad you're here. Thanks for checking in after I told you to tune in to see how much I won. W-O-N, not one, O-N-E. But very hot here in Vegas, 110 degrees. Yesterday we had 10,400 and something steps before 9 o'clock in the morning. And I smelled like it. The COVID stench that JJ talked about on the chop and beef. After you have COVID, something changes in your body. At least some of us. Apparently, JJ and I are somehow related, but you just get this rank smell. And I don't know if anybody else notices it, but I noticed it, and JJ noticed it too. So I don't know what else JJ says is true, but that is true. That is true. And it's also true that Vegas is hot, but I hear it's hot in Texas too. It's 106 or 7 there, but different kind of heat. But goodness, it gets light out here, Casey, at like 5:30 in the morning. The sun is out and shining.
One thing my dad always used to say is that when people from Las Vegas would say, "Yeah, but it's a dry heat," and he would always say, "So is sticking your head in an oven, but I wouldn't set it at 200 and do that." So, it gets but you don't sweat. It's a weird 110 out there, right? In July, it's like you don't sweat, but it's hot. Oh my God, it's hot.
I sweated this morning a little bit.
You just said that.
Yeah, but I did not yesterday on our. Well, here's the thing: we took 10,000 steps yesterday morning before 9 o'clock, I should say. But I think like 3,000 of them were in the various casinos down the strip, right? You walk away, go in a casino, lose some money, come out, walk. So, but anyway, it's hot. Yes, it is. It's a little different than Texas. But I tell you what, when you go out the doors and it's 110, you certainly feel it. You certainly feel it. Hey, JP Priester was the first one to check in tonight. How about that? I don't know if Kevron is under the weather or what, but so you and Locks know that I went to the Westgate Superbook, sent you guys a picture on the text machine of the big, humongous board with all the different games going on, all the different bets. So much fun to be in there. A lot of, as you said, it's really the Mecca. And I went to some other sports books, Planet Hollywood's across the street, and Caesars, and there's 50 of them around here. Bellagio this morning, and it's just not the same as that place. It is like the Mecca. A lot of fun. And on Saturday, I think is when we first went, I went and placed 4 bets on baseball games. The bets that you and Zach gave me weren't available because they didn't have the futures out for the teams. The one that JJ gave out, I think, was available, the Heisman bet, but I decided since I couldn't choose between one of the 3, I didn't choose any of them. So I bet on baseball, won 3 out of 4, immediately texted you and said, Vegas ain't bleep. I own this place. Now, I went back, of course, had to go back on Sunday, and I lost my butt, right? So I was down to like $76, and this is off a mobile app. So I didn't want to go all the way back to the Westgate to cash out that $76. And I figured, hey, I'll just let it ride. I'll lose it. No problem. No big deal. $100. What's the deal? And they won. So I won the all or nothing bet. So I ended up 1-4 that day. 1-4 that day. But hey, look who's watching.
Nice.
JJ, I don't know if you heard my rant about the COVID stench, but you're right on because this is powerful stuff here. I did not bet on Stroud. I bet all on baseball. I went 1-4 the second day, but that all or nothing bet put me over the top. Cashed out a winner. I had a 4-5 overall record, but plus $27 and some change. Now, here is the kicker of this. My wife is watching me very closely, and she doesn't watch me very closely. She's trying to figure it out, asking me all these questions about betting and gambling and all this stuff. And it was just crazy. And I was like, no, I said, it's entertainment. It's just like you. So push comes to shove. I do some calculations. She didn't do the calculations. I won $27, right, on the sports betting. She lost about 400. She's questioning me, right? She's questioning me about, I don't understand. Why are you doing that? She really wasn't that bad, but kind of making for emphasis for the show. But she was asking some questions, and because she just didn't understand, didn't get it, didn't know, what was going on. But I just thought it was funny that I actually won money, and she lost $400 we're figuring, and she's questioning me about my choices of gambling.
That's not bad though, to only be down 400 out there. So you guys are doing all right, I think.
Well, we do some intermittent gambling. Like I said, we walk down the strip, we go in here, 20, 40, 60, whatever. I think out of that 400, I think about 250 was that first day. And she like, oh, okay, maybe we don't need to do this all the time.
It humbles you very quickly, doesn't it? I remember going out there and giving the guy like $300 at a blackjack table. And, I see the chips to the left and the right of me, all the different colors, the rainbow of chips, and he hands me 3 chips. It's like, can you change this out? He's like, it's a $25 a hand table. I'm like, maybe I should take myself over to the $5 table.
Yeah, no doubt. It's quite the experience. We haven't been out here in about 8 years, and like I told you earlier, we think we've aged out because we're a little bit older than most of the crowd, especially in the place we're staying. I was telling Casey before the show that you go down to the lobby and there's free drinks being handed out, and there's a piano guy. There's a guy playing a piano and somebody over there in the corner juggling, and people all over the place. And we're like, we just want to go to sleep. It's been a long day. Hey, Chancey, I talked about that up front. They did not have the win totals up at the Westgate, so we did not. I did not bet that.
I will make that bet. Somehow, some way, I will make that bet.
Well, you got friends in Jersey. I know that. At least one. Just the fact that your wife is placing bets on sporting events is awesome. JP, let me correct. She didn't place the bets on the sporting events. She asked about it, what I was doing. So that's a little bit less awesome. But she showed an interest and she wanted to go back. I texted Casey and said she was interested. She said, let's go back to that tomorrow, so you can bet on the Astros. They had 75 screens up there on the wall. Just a lot of fun. But at some point you get kind of drunk on it, right? You can't. You turn away, you turn back to the screen, and you're trying to find your game, right? Because they got them all on, every game, soccer and horse racing and baseball, and you're like, it's kind of sensory overload at some point, right? You get overwhelmed with it. But I was a winner. Since she's not here right now, she lost, and she was a loser. But we're having a blast. We went to a comedy show at the Comedy Cellar in Vegas, and we saw, do you remember Roz from Night Court, the bailiff?
Absolutely, yeah.
She closed the show. Now, she's 68 years old now, and she's high as a kite. She told everybody that, and it was a little disappointing, but a couple of good comedians, a couple of not so good ones. But, we got out and got together and had a good time. And last night we saw V, the variety show. People are twisting their legs behind their head and flipping stuff around, and just a kind of a variety show. It was good, not as good as we saw 18 years ago when we were here. And there's Parker wanting to talk about the NHL free agency, Casey, believe that or not. Um, uh, so we saw the variety show. What is as good as it was 18 years ago? Tonight, the topper. I don't know if I've told you this.
You haven't.
Our last show in town, Carrot Top. We're going to see Carrot Top tonight. And my first thing I said when I looked him up is he's still alive. I could not believe he was still alive, but he is alive and he's just around the corner. JP says my wife wouldn't even ask unless she noticed I was losing money. That's what she was worried about, JP. That is what she was worried about. Nelson checks in and put $5 on who?
Yes. Don't even try.
When stage 12, this Tour de France time. But anyway, Carrot Top tonight, flying home tomorrow morning early, and been a good trip. Like I said, she needed to get away from work more than I did. She works much harder than I do, gets much more stress than I do. So been a good trip, though. The COVID stench is hitting me. Hey, Casey, while I was away, since the last time we've talked, Clemson football has really picked up some recruiting, and glad JP's on to chime in here. Harris Sewell committed, number 73 overall. Of course, Peter Woods, number 23 overall in the last couple of weeks. So 2 top 100 players added to the Clemson list of signees, or commitments, I should say, commitments this summer. Things are looking up for the Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are 2 big gets, and unfortunately, I feel like I would probably be put in the category of dumper right now because I'm waiting for a running back. I love what they're doing on the defensive line. I love what they're doing on the offensive line. The fact that JP said the other night on his Facebook show that they're going to have probably 5 in the defensive backfield, whether it's 3 corners, 2 safeties, whatever it may be. Like, I love what they're doing there, but man, I just as a novice fan, as I will admit to being, as far as knowing the intricacies of it, I need some skill players, and I like the wide receivers, Noble Johnson. I want a running back, and I hate the fact that we keep losing. Clemson keeps losing running back recruits to other places, understandably, completely. But you keep hitting these home runs with these other guys. The Peter Woods get was unreal, but I just want a running back. Can I get a running back anywhere? Not to poo-poo on the success so far, because it's been awesome.
No doubt. Kevron checks in. Hey, go Tigers. Hey, Kevron, good to see you. Yeah, I think JP's pointed that out several times. They continue to look for running backs. Haven't found one yet. And I wanted to introduce our third member of the panel tonight. This dude. I don't know who that guy is, but I saw him this morning across the street being silly. My wife wouldn't let me buy it. My wife would not let me buy the $12.99 hat because she said you'll never wear it again. And you know what? She's right.
Could have been the trophy for picks this year.
Oh man. Okay, she is over there. She might be able to get them. I have to text her after the show. Anyway, number 23, number 73. That goes along with previously they had number 33 and 40 in Vecina and Burley. 4 top 100 players for Clemson right now in football, 6 in the top 172 and 9 in the top 239. I kind of hit that 250 mark is where I kind of consider the blue chips and the not blue chips. I don't know if that's valid or not. That's just me. But 9 in the top 239. Now, Nelson obviously had a point when he said they're not in the range of a Notre Dame or Ohio State, and that is true. I think Notre Dame has 6 in the top 100 and 14 in the top 250 by 247 measures. So they're not quite there, but I mean, 4 top 100, not bad.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I like rivals for the Clemson predictions and things like that. But 247 tends to be where I go for like average recruit, and right now Clemson's getting beaten by those 2 schools handily. But to each their own. When Clemson's been really good, they've been in the top 10, top 12. So, you kind of have to keep that in mind too. That yes, is it nice to have all the all the flowery pictures and name and lights to be the number one recruiting class in the country? Sure, it is, but I don't think that's reality right now, especially the way that these other schools have recruited thus far, and we haven't even mentioned Alabama yet.
Yep. Well, and also I think it's a down year. JP, correct me if I'm wrong, but a down year in the state of South Carolina. So there's not any help, if you will, coming from that natural recruiting area for Clemson, right? They're going to have to go outside of South Carolina to get anybody really in the 23 class, and maybe it would only be one or two players, but certainly that if there was a top 100 player in South Carolina, they'd have better than a 50-50 chance. Depending on what school he went to, of course.
Now, I think somebody can correct me probably too, but I don't believe they're out of the current haul of verbal commits. There is anyone from South Carolina. I could be wrong there too. Yeah.
I read that last week, and of course, with Peter Woods being from Alabaster, Alabama, still at 0 as far as I know. JP checks in and says, not a great recruiting year wise in state. Not a great recruiting year in state, 2023. So, all right, we're going to keep this a little short. I've got to go prepare for Carrot Top. Casey is tired. He worked. I'm tired. I've been drinking for a week. And need to get back to Austin to rest and relax. I'm trying to think of the craziest thing we've seen since we've been here, and it's been pretty laid back. Maybe the surfer guy at the V last night, but Clemson baseball is also recruiting at a high level, but in a different way. They now have 5 players. Where's it fit? 5 players that were formerly committed to the University of Michigan are now Clemson commits, plus the 2 transfers. So there's going to be at least 7 new faces with Michigan ties of some sort. And, I'm sitting here thinking, and of course, Bacon said in his first press conference that he wanted to dominate the state of South Carolina. Well, all these guys are from Michigan, Illinois, the Midwest, somewhere. So it's going to be an interesting season next year. The roster is going to turn over not only in names, but in accents, maybe verbal tics. It's going to be a crazy year for Clemson baseball in 2023.
Yeah, one thing I think Clemson folks need to realize too is that when Jack was at his best, he had guys from Maine, Massachusetts. Ryan Model was from New Hampshire, I believe, or Massachusetts, one of those in the Northeast. So he was pillaged in the Northeast when he was at his best, and towards the end he was getting Florida kids. Andy DeLessio was a Florida kid that he was getting. So anyway, Virginia, he was hitting that whole East Coast. But yeah, I think Backage is doing a fantastic job. And it goes back to something I said a couple weeks ago when I was talking about how we were losing our pants a little bit about how all these guys were transferring out. But I said there's going to be some attrition. That's the wrong word again. So much for my English degree. There's going to be some. Okay, that's good. That's fine. There's going to be some reciprocity, if you will, in getting some of these guys back. And we've seen a couple of the players that have actually played for Michigan transfer down as grad transfers. And now we're seeing some of the recruiting class for the next year that's committed to play too. And I think there's a couple blue chippers that we may not see at Clemson. I think the latest one that are 2, not Titsworth, the one before, the smooth swinging lefty is going to be a highlight. No.
Creighton?
Yeah, Creighton. I think he's going to be the one that we have to watch to see if he even makes it on campus. But I love it. I love the fact that these guys, what it tells me too as a fan is that these guys wanted to play for him. You know how we had lost all these guys that wanted to play for Monty. This is kind of, rejuvenating me a little bit to say Backage has his guys too. So hopefully he does recruit South Carolina. That Easley team is always good in that the VFW, what do they call that stuff? The American Legion World Series every year. So there's players in this state that need to be recruited at a high level. So hopefully he can do that. But right now, get what you can get, and then before you know it, then he's going to have to get out and meet the coaches, as he's apparently doing as well.
Well, it makes sense, right? He's obviously has relationships with these kids that committed to Michigan. I always worry about those guys, that commit to a coach just because of what happened versus ones that commit to university. But the university's not recruiting them, right? The coaches are. So I completely understand it and understand if anyone wants to leave that was recruited by Monty or was going to come in 2023 because of Monty Lee, why they would prefer to move on. And let me, you said most of the names. Let me just run them off real quick. Drew Titsworth, Joe Allen, Nolan Norwalkie, Jack Crichton, I think is how you say it, and Dylan Head.
Dylan Head is the one I was talking about, smooth swinging lefty.
Yeah, because I noticed yesterday I was researching a story for Rubbing the Rock on the draft coming up and who Clemson might lose in that draft. And, we know one name at third base who they're probably going to lose. But they didn't mention Dylan Head where he was specifically in this list that I saw. But the guy, Jack Crichton, that you mentioned was 201. So that's right around the 8th or 9th round. And, I don't know what the money is there versus college, but it's close. And it's something he's going to have to consider. So we'll see what happens there. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Case?
I forget.
Okay. Max Wagner, by the way.
I do remember back at the last kid that was committed was the Titsworth, the pitcher out of Michigan. And he said once he stepped on campus, he knew. So there's something in these hills, as they say, because he's like, I don't know why anybody would go anywhere else. That's not a direct quote, but that's how I read it. So, it's one of those things. Kids from the Midwest don't necessarily get down to the Southeast very often, unless you're from Ohio and you go to Hilton Head. But other than that, once they can go to the west side of the state, Clemson has allure, no question.
I thought it was Ohio to Myrtle Beach. I thought that was.
I think it's both now. Myrtle's full, so they keep pushing it south, I think.
Overbooked. Nelson says dominating South Carolina recruiting starts in Michigan. It does. Right. It does because they're going to have a better team next year because of these guys coming from Michigan, and I think Dylan Head was from actually Illinois. So there's going to be a big Midwest flavor to Clemson baseball, and I texted the other day that the natives are going to be restless when they see guys named Norwalkie and Titsworth and Crichton instead of Johnson, Smith, and whatever else happens in South Carolina. So,
and I don't think Michigan has named a coach yet, and I think that also goes a long way. I mean, you got to. Notre Dame had like 10 people in the transfer portal too before they just got Stifler from VCU. So, there's some attrition that's going to take place regardless, but they still don't have a coach name as far as I know.
It is hard to stay committed when you don't know who your coach is. It's one thing if you know him or like him or don't like him, at least you know who he is. But if you don't know him or who it is going to be, it's tough to stay committed. Yes, we're full of Ohio transplants here in Myrtle Beach. Not a huge baseball fan, but the new coach has piqued my interest. David Bassett, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you, bud. Check back in.
They did hire a coach. I was wrong, but it was just on July 3rd.
I would say check in next week, David, but don't check in next week. We'll be the week after. They didn't name a coach. Forget from where. John Chancey. Thanks, Chancey. Casey has corrected his error. But anyway, things are moving along.
Arizona State.
Well, that's not a bad get. Things
he
are moving
fired
along.
From there.
Okay. Things are moving along in football and baseball recruiting. As you said, we need a running back in football. I read JP's article of the day. I linked to it on rubbingtherock.com. I think he had running back. He talked about a couple of offensive linemen. One sounded semi-positive. The other one, Freeling, did not sound as positive. A couple other defensive players on the board that we'll talk about on Rubbing the Rock over time. But it's going to slow down a little bit, right? It's kind of like the dead period after the 5 weeks of June and the first week of July with the Peter Woods commitment that kind of chill out, back off a little bit. Not for JP, but for me and you. Tracy Smith from Arizona State. There you go. Thanks. Appreciate you, Chancey. So In that vein, Casey and I are also, Casey's traveling next week, and we're going to take next week off, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. At least that is the plan. We just wanted to get on since we missed last week. We figured out we're going to miss next week, so we want to get on, have a few minutes here. Casey's had a long day. I've got to watch Carrot Top tonight, and I've got to save all my energy for the rolling on the floor laughs that I'm going to have in a couple hours. But it was kind of a last minute thing. We decided, it's our last night. We can sit in a room and do nothing, or we can go across the street and see Carrot Top. Let's see Carrot Top. We watched like a 10-minute video on him last night, and he killed. Problem is, it's probably a 3-hour show. He killed for 10 minutes. They snipped it all together. No, it should be fun. But our last day, so we're going to have a good time. JP says Clemson meeting day coming up on Tuesday. All right, good info, JP. And I think I saw the folks or the players that are going to go with Dabo to the media days. So I'll have something out on that in the next couple of days or so. So, Beef, 25 minutes. Appreciate your time. You had a long day, bud. Whenever Casey tells me he's not going to talk a lot, I know something is not right in this world. So I appreciate you jumping on. It's kind of a last minute thing. I almost said, let's blow it off, but it worked out.
It worked out well.
Give everybody an update on my big $27.61 winnings, and how bad I stink after 110 degrees in Las Vegas. Casey, before you do the wrap up, let me ask you one more final question.
Sure.
You going to chop some beef this week?
We are, yeah. We actually have to take next week off as well for chopping beef, but we're going to bring it back again for episode 2 for the second time of season 5. So it will be, I think it's just me and JJ tomorrow, as Zach apparently is playing Harbortown tomorrow.
Whoa.
And that guy apparently is, and I know I say apparently, but it's happening. He's playing Harbortown tomorrow, and then Hague Point on Defusky Island on Saturday or on Friday. So he's got a couple hard golf courses that he's playing in back-to-back days. So we're going to let him kind of do his thing at Harbortown tomorrow, and JJ and I will chop some beef.
All right. JP says ACC kickoff the following week in Charlotte. Thanks for the info, JP. Casey, take it away, and let's get out of here and give these people their Wednesday night back.
Thanks so much to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help, John Chansey for being a good all-around guy, Uncle John McGee, as always, Sluggo Podcast, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates on behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman. I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Make sure to check out rubbingtherock.com and allclemson.com as well. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you right here, hopefully in 2 weeks on Sluggo.
Check out Chopping the Beef.